champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 85 and tonight we'll be talking the latest from MMA and boxing, plus of course last night's UFC card, Bellator, and a few real good fights on those cards, a new champion and an incredible Bellator main event. And of course we'll be talking to another top guest from the world of combat sports, which I'm very much looking forward to. But a little bit of housekeeping first. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms. But do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the bell for notifications. And you can find more information on all the social media pages about upcoming guests, shows, and new series. And, of course, if you prefer your podcasts in audio form, the Danny Batten Fight Show, as is all the A.C.E Podcast Nation's new series, and now part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. You can find the next show at our website, and you can also go to the Sports Social website, which is sportssocial.co.uk, to find all our different shows, including the Andy Campbell Football Show, the Championship Show, Super Kev Unscripted, and of course Danny Batten Fight Show, among others, including My Story, which will be returning soon for Series 3, Mental Health in Sport, and lots of others. Always creating new content with some top names, expert analysts, and more. But speaking of those expert analysts, I am joined as usual by my co-host. He is former Cage Warriors champion, a legend of British MMA. It is Mr. Daniel Batten. How are you, sir?
Yeah, you're right, Si. Yeah, really good.
Right,
He was
buddy.
treated not only by UFC, but he's treated to actually a really impressive Bellator card. Bellator
Yes,
seems
mate.
to have really got themselves sorted of late, and that's good to see.
Like, I've criticised Bellator a lot, probably, haven't I, over the 85 shows we've done in for various different things. I would say I'm always fair. They tend to put on the odd great fight, speaking generally. But I thought actually that yesterday was a really good card, and I think since fans have been back and things have opened up a lot, I've been really impressed with some of the Bellator cards and some of the names coming through. They really. Like one of the criticisms which I had put to them is that they focus so much on the Pitbull brothers and a lot of older names who are perhaps coming to the end of their career. And what I'm seeing now coming through is some real fresh faces, some younger fighters who are really looking to make a name for themselves. And obviously AJ Mckee, being one of them, has made a big name for himself over the weekend, which we'll discuss in a bit. But tonight we are joined by a man who trains at Shore MMA, fresh off his victory last weekend on Meltdown MMA. It is professional bantamweight, Mr. Levi Bachelor. How are you, mate?
Yeah, right, guys. All good, thanks.
Good man. So obviously the first place to start, Levi, has to be last weekend. And you obviously fought on Meltdown MMA.
Yeah.
What was it like to be back in the cage after, what was it, like 18 months
like
at least?
18, 19 months, something like that. Yeah, it was amazing.
So what I was going to quickly say, mate, obviously you had your debut on the Cage Warriors undercard back in, I think it was 2019. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 2019.
And then you've had to wait like 18 months plus to have your next fight. Was that like just making your debut all over again?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it felt like. All the lads in the gym, Jack, Josh Reed, and stuff like that. Obviously, they had trilogy shows, the UFCs and stuff, to sort of all the hard work behind closed doors to showcase what they'd been training. But for guys like me, we were working just as hard, but just had no shows to sort of show it. So last weekend finally got back in there, and got that chance to show what we've been working on.
Yeah, and it was a lot longer than obviously your debut, and he lasted about a minute before you got the victory. This one went to a decision. How did you feel it went, and like how did you feel in there?
Yeah, I felt good in there. My cardio was phenomenal. I was the fittest I'd ever been for it. Same with strength. I was as strong as I've ever been for a fight. And I felt good in myself going into the fight as well. And it was a decision win, but I won every round. I got to showcase my strong wrestling, which obviously we're known for up in short MMA. And yeah, it wasn't a flawless performance by a long shot, but we still got in there. We got another win, and we move forward.
Absolutely. What are you a fighter who gets like nervous and stuff before fights? Or are you quite relaxed?
I like to try and stay relaxed. I'd be lying if I said I didn't get nervous at all. I think that goes for anybody. I think some nerves for everybody. But yeah, I just tried to shut off. Just take my time as the day went on, and just did what I did best once the cage door locked.
Absolutely, Dan. Like for you, like how difficult is that? That it's like it's such a long period between your debut and then that follow-up fight, because obviously in Levi's case, his debut was only 50-something seconds before he got that win. Like that's a long wait, isn't it, for a young fighter who's just turned pro, itching to get really kind of get a bit of momentum, get those wins up. Like how difficult is that for him, for his coaches as well?
Yeah, it's not easy. There were several periods in my career where I had more than 2 years out, so not quite quite the same. But I think anything going over 12 months is a little disruptive to that. Just that familiar process of nerves and the weight cut and the face down, everything just becomes familiar when you're active throughout a year. But once you start going 12 months and beyond, it can be a little tricky. And for Levi in particular, because he had such a fast and
impressive victory,
it was impressive, but it doesn't gain much in terms of the cage experience, which a win's a win. You can't take nothing away from that, and you are what you're up against. And if you get an opportunity to take that quick win, you take it. But it doesn't help his situation. But everyone's in the same boat at the moment. Things have been a little difficult and still proving to be a little difficult. Things are kind of going now, and Levi's a young lad. I would say it's going to affect him, say, less right now than it would sort of like a little later on in his career. I think when you're that young and you're still making such huge increments of improvement, I don't think it will be too much of an issue for someone like Levi. But on the flip side of that, what you understand is a lot of these youngsters also come off from amateur performances, and when you've performed with amateurs, quite often you're fighting 5-6 times a year. So that's something that I didn't really have much experience of back in my time, because everyone went pro so early because there wasn't as many fighters around. So I only really Levi could perhaps comment more on that, whether he found it more difficult, because I don't know what your amateur background was, Levi. Did you have many amateur fights?
I am still amateur now, actually.
All right.
You are still?
Yeah, still amateur now. Yeah.
Right, okay. I thought you turned pro.
I thought it was pro. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Training like a pro and training with the pros. But
we just expect people from your team to all be pro when we see you active.
That's it. But the thing is, like, I know, like, all the people, like the guys you train with and that, and you only got to look on social media and things like that. Like, they clearly highly rate you and the work you put in and the talent you've got. So that's interesting, because that's interesting what you said there, Dan. Like, amateurs are a lot more active than when you turn pro. So I mean, that's just we've talked a bit about like the adaptations you've got to make when you turn from amateur to pro, and the difference and stuff like that. Like, that's another adaptation that I guess you'll have to make, Levi, when you do turn pro. In that, as an amateur, you're going to be a lot more active. And I got to say, like we've talked a little bit about it, Dan. Like this last year, like obviously the Cage Warriors trilogies, they've been amazing for fans, for fighters, you know, professional fighters, because in the UK, because they've kept people fighting. But the amateurs have like been just abandoned, haven't they, until recently, where everything was closed off. And gyms, they took so long to open up gyms. Like you do really feel for the amateur guys. And I know, like Danny, obviously you've got a lot of amateur fighters who haven't been able to fight and train over the last year. But like Levi, how have you kept sort of like active and fit and trained in that period where gyms were closed and everything? Like how difficult is that?
Yeah, it is difficult, you know. It's especially for the guys, obviously like myself, amateurs. We didn't sort of have that elite athlete status or whatever the government were sort of giving out. So you sort of just have to take it, you know, just what you've got. I'm lucky enough to have equipment in my house, a treadmill, bike, things like that, a few weights. So sort of just staying fit in that sense. But then in terms of sparring and things like that, and being able to motivate yourself for a fight, you know, that's a whole another story. It's and it's a completely different type of fitness as well. MMA and just sort of running. And you notice that as soon as you go back into the gym once they opened again, and you think, I'm running a 10K easily, but then I'm trying to do a round of wrestling, and you know it's not as easy. Like so. Yeah, it was hard to sort of motivate yourself, but you just had to take what you had. You know, there wasn't a lot you could do about it.
No, it's interesting actually. Like, I think it comes to a lot of it for all fighters in boxing and MMA over. And we talked to Gavin Gwynn a couple of weeks back. Like that period when it was like sort of full lockdown and everything was closed. Like you see the fighters who were proper motivated and dedicated, and because they were the ones who were going out on ridiculously long bike rides and runs and training in their gardens and doing stuff like that, because they knew that if they wanted to stay in shape and be ready for when, you know, if they got offered a fight as soon as things got opened up, they wanted to be in the best possible shape to do so. And then you saw some others who perhaps were enjoying their time off, and you know, and that's not to criticize those guys, but it's just, I guess it's about self-motivation, Dan, isn't it? It's about those guys who can just, you've got to, or you haven't got your coaches perhaps saying, you know, like if you go to the gym every day training, you've got coaches doing sparring and you've got coaches motivating you. Whereas when you're at home on your own with your missus or with the kids or whatever, it's down to you to motivate yourself. And that's a different story then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you can still be successful whether you're self-motivated or not, but I think it's always a good addition to have that self-motivation. You know, some people, and I've noticed it with fighters that I've had throughout the years, sort of like come training and turn up to the classes regular, you know, when they got fight camp, and they sort of like turn up really regularly for 8 to 10 weeks. And that's kind of annoying for me because it's really hard to be learning while you're in a fight camp, and then you've got the wake up process as well. And you know, something I really try to push onto students is to you know stay in school, so to speak. You know, a fight camp's all about getting strong, getting fit, getting sharp, and putting strategies into place. And yeah. So I mean, a little example of self-motivation. I was always quite self-motivated, and a good example of that was, I'm going to visit my parents down in Somerset, and they live right on the coast. And during the winter times, the rain clouds just seem to hang there. So when you get a rainy day, such as where we are, you might actually get this in Wales. It seems to hang for
rain,
days upon days.
Forever.
Yeah. They really get that there. And I remember it was a winter time. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but Dad's always been an early morning riser. He was already up. I got up. I always had half a cup of water. I had 2 bites of a banana, and I used to go out running 6-7 miles. And it was pissing down with rain, wind, coming off the sea. It was really brutal conditions, but I kind of found that I ran better in those conditions personally rather than I would the heat. I found the heat used to deter me more than it did the bad weather of wind and rain. But I remember going for this long run, coming back and sopping wet, and remember my dad saying, "Bloody old boy, no wonder why you're doing well at what you do. You're so self-motivated." And I think you either got that or you haven't, but it's not a must-have for success. I think if you've got good coaches around you, a good team, they can drag you along. And not to take too much of the talking here, a good example, I don't know whether Levi's ever heard of a guy called Sanjino. He used to be Cage Warriors lightweight world champion. At the time, I was featherweight world champion.
Not too sure. I don't think so.
Back in the black and white TV days, there.
Yeah. We had, there was me as a featherweight world champion. He was a lightweight Cage Warriors champion. So we were really, in a good position there regards our training camp. But he was so lazy, and not to say that he owes me for being the champion. It takes all different. But I was so motivated. I used to go around and have to get him up. We arranged to train, and being Brazilian, they never turn up on time. I used to have to go around, get him out of bed, wait for him to eat something, then go train. We used to start training an hour and a half after the time that we originally arranged. But we were two opposite ends, but we both ended up with Cage Warriors World titles. And albeit that I had to drag him out of his bed and get him to come training, we were two opposites, absolute two opposites.
You need that. No, the problem for you, Danny, is there was no one for you to fight back then. There just wasn't enough fighters, was there? I suppose these days, at least there's fighters around in all weight divisions for guys like Levi, and like the amateur scene is stacked, and there's you're never going to be short of a fight. Although you say that, we've had a few fighters, haven't we, who've been like unbeaten and stuff on the show, and they've struggled to get fights because they're obviously on a bit of a streak and they've got a bit of a reputation, and no one wants to fight them. But I suppose that's just one of those of the things of being successful, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the difficulty with that is when you're signed under a promotion. I think the kind of people you're referring to, people who signed under Cage Warriors. Yeah, and so they was relying really on Cage Warriors and whatever management they have. Try and get the fights within that promotion. They can't just venture out. I think when you're freelancing and not signed under a promotion, you can be more active. But everyone obviously wants a piece of Cage Warriors because it's become recognised as a feeder show for UFC. So you will get fighters that do have an unbeaten run, and other people ain't going to be so keen to fight them, right? It's just
speaking of undefeated fighters. UFC's Jack Shaw says, question for Levi, how long did it take you to grow that goatee?
A lot longer than the average person, put it that way. It's been a little while.
Yeah. So what about your sort of introduction, should we say, into it, like MMA? How did you get into it? Was it like something you'd always been interested in, or did it sort of just gradually happen?
It's a bit of a weird one, really. So as a kid, I tried lots of different sports. Never really got into anything. At the age of about 7, 8, I did a bit of boxing. I stuck at that probably the longest as a kid. Did enjoy it. I did a couple of exhibition bouts as well. Obviously, I think you have to be 10 or something like that to start doing your proper boxing amateur fights. Yeah. Unfortunately, sort of just gave that up. You're still young at that age. You don't really know what you want, like. But yeah, I was to tell the truth, I was never really interested in sports. I did a little bit of football and rugby at school, but then again, never really stuck at anything. And then I left school, and then I was on holiday then in 2017, I think it was, and we were in Dubai, and Gary Lockett was out there at the same time, and him and my old man know each other, so we sort of met up. He brought his boy as well, Jack, along, and we sort of had a chat. And then after that, I think I just spoke to my dad about wanting to get back into some sort of sport or boxing. And then we were speaking to Gary, and he had obviously trains Liu Long and Jack Shaw as well. So he had mentioned that Liu Long was doing 1-to-1 private sessions in MMA, and then obviously mentioned that Shaky and Jack had Tulare Combat up in Blina. So we got in contact with the both of them. I started doing private sessions with Lou. I was just doing one session a week, and that was pretty good. It was the basics of MMA. It was sort of just an introduction, and then at the same time, I started going up to Tulare Combat. Obviously now Shaw Mixed Martial Arts, doing the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and until that point, I'd never even heard of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. It was the first time I was walking through the door, and it was the first time I was hearing about it. So it was completely alien to me, to be honest. I still remember my first session now, and it's just so weird. It's one of those things you can't explain to people. You have to do it to sort of understand. But I enjoyed it, and I kept going back, and here we are now, 3.5 years later, BJJ purple belt and undefeated MMA. So we're doing something right. Full time now. We're at Shaw Mixed Martial Arts, obviously, and loving it. Just into it back after that.
What about like your parents? What was their reaction to you wanting to get into fighting? Some parents, they go like either way, don't they? They don't mind it, and they're quite encouraging. Or some of them don't want you to get your face smashed up each day as you're training. Like,
nah, both my parents are really, really encouraging. They push me to do the best that I can. My dad likes it a little bit more. He's always been a fan of boxing, and then took a big interest, obviously, in MMA once I started that. My mum likes it as well, but she doesn't quite like watching the fights. Although she does come. She doesn't like it. She likes to wait until after the fight, and both of them get really nervous and whatnot. But they love the fact that I'm doing something. They see that the gym is like a family as well, and they both love that aspect of it. So they're both really encouraging.
Yeah, it's a weird. Like, I get nervous watching my kids play like football and that. Let alone, I can't imagine what it would be like to watch them like competing in something where they're getting kicked crap out of. Like, but it is what it is, I guess. But there's more to it than that, obviously. So what I would like to know, Levi, is you going to take the Jake Paul fight? Yeah. Would you take Jake Paul fight? Would you face him in a boxing match?
For that sort of money, yeah, definitely. They're putting on these shows and they're making mega bucks, and people are watching it. They like watching it, and as much smack as people talk about it, he's doing something right. He's making a lot of money, and you can't complain, then, can you? But yeah, people are tuning in, and it is good to watch sometimes. People don't always agree with it, but it is. It's like
the freak show aspect of it, isn't it? It's like it's like that, like what they call it, like rubbernecking on the motorway, and it's like you can't help but watch it. I think like I always say to people who sort of are adamantly against it, but they still watch it, and it's like if you like so against it, you've got to stop watching it and buying them, because the reason they're going to keep going is because they do such ridiculous pay-per-view numbers that like they're outselling anyone who's not like Fury and Joshua and McGregor and people like this. They're outselling everyone else, like in boxing. So it is what it is, I guess. Like, from a fighter's point of view, do you object? Like, how do you feel about them kind of coming in and, getting those big paydays and stuff like that? Do you feel like they've sort of taken other boxers' spots, or like it's an interesting one, because really, if it was just another boxer, would they be bringing in those numbers? Probably not, in my opinion. So they're not really taking anyone's slots. But like, how do you feel as a fighter about it? just from the outside. I know you're MMA, but
it's an awkward one, really. Like, they obviously did all their work getting their fan base and whatever previously to boxing. You can't just look at the boxing. You know, they've been working for years on social media, sort of getting that fan base anyway. You know, people are just seeing them as YouTubers coming in, but they're doing everything right as well. You know, they've got the money to go and train full time and work with the best of the best, and they're preparing well. And I think that obviously the events they're run properly. They're the best of the best. You know, all the medical staff. You know, the arenas, whatnot. You know, it is all done professionally. So, you know, you can't really knock it there. And I think, you know, they're drawing in the fans as well. So you can't really say that they shouldn't be on that type of money, because, you know, they're making it. So
they're bringing it in, and
yes.
I did see some and I think I might have mentioned this on last week's show. Like, Jake Paul actually started boxing training well before, like, he did any sort of like the KSI fight and all these different things he's done. Like, he was already training. So I think, like, he has got a bit of a passion for it, or whatever you want to say. He's not just kind of like jumped in completely, you know, just completely novice. But I guess people, there's a bit of jealousy there at the end of the day, in there, because of the amount of money they're making from it. I know Danny's a massive fan of the commentary on those Triller shows. He thought it was exceptional, didn't you, mate? Yeah, you said last week. It's exceptional commentary. They should have had me and Danny on for Jesus. It was terrible. But people watched us or whatever, and it is what it is. A couple of quick questions, Levi. And then I'm going to do this thing called the one-word game, where I give you a name of a fighter or a person from the combat sports world, and you've just got to kind of say the first thing which comes to mind. So we'll do that in a minute. But JD sent a question in. He said, do you think Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury, one, will fight each other, and two, who will win if they do?
I think they will eventually. Obviously, it keeps getting put back or whatever. I think it will be there at some point. For who takes it, I'm gonna back Fury. Just, you know, I just like him as a character as well. He's you know, he's great to watch, but he's good at what he does as well. So yeah, I'm gonna say Fury.
Yeah, he's an exceptional boxer, and he, like, a technical boxer. He's just exceptional, but he's going to have to get through Deontay Wilder first. We've got loads of questions in the live chat, so we'll do some of those first. Reese David Evans, Danny, wants to know, he says, there's more than a few dodgy agents in football. What are MMA? What's it like for agents or managers and things like that? Is there some shady characters around?
There has been in the past. There was ones that was linked in with, you know, I don't know how I stand for names, but Linton Vassell was one of my fighters who's still really active in Bellator. His first manager was a real crook, and they had a hell of a time trying to get out of that contract, because I think he ended up getting put away, or he lives in Mexico now. He'd done something pretty bad, and he couldn't go to the US anymore, and he wanted out because he wasn't getting the kind of management that he originally signed up for. So yeah, there are some bad experiences out there, but I think less so today. You're obviously going to get good management and not so good management. But I think at some point when you move up the ranks and you want to start getting to UFC and Bellator, it's probably a good idea to get a form of management. But, you know, I think on the management side of things, you know, it doesn't take much to ask around to get, you know, a hearing of whispers on who is good and who is not.
Yes.
I just think you've just got to be a bit common sensual. And again, coaches who have an influence on that, they should have some kind of exposure and idea of what good management and bad management's all about. I mean, they're there to guide the students not only technically and strategically for their fights, but also to guide them to latch on to the right type of management when needed. I think initially you don't need one. I don't think you necessarily even need one for Cage Warriors as an example, but certainly going beyond that, I think it's a good idea to get hooked up with some form of management and go with one that's tried and tested. And there's some top names under it if you can get access to them.
Yeah, I think I'm right in saying, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know a lot of the Cage Warriors guys, and they managed by the Cage Warriors owner, Graham Boylan. Does he manage a lot of the fighters, or he's involved in like the management side of it? Which obviously I think is a really good idea, because one, he's always going to want the best for them, because the bigger they get is going to be better for him. And then they obviously move on to the UFC eventually, and he's part of that. I think it's like a win-win situation, because he's going to protect those fighters both from a booking point of view in the matchups, but also away from the cage as well.
Yeah, I think that's initially. This is just my personal opinion, but a lot of people may not agree. But I don't think. I think it's not such a good idea to have a promoter that's also managing fighters on his show.
You think it's like a bit of a clash of there's a terminology, I forget it now, but it's conflict of interest, isn't it? Is that what you're saying? You can imagine, like, you're up against say an up and coming fighter that is managed by Graham, and you're coming from as an outsider, so to speak, and it just makes you wonder, is there going to be some form of favourability going in there? I just don't think it's good practice. I don't think it should be allowed, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it should be allowed. If it was in boxing, the fighters would be not happy with about like that situation. Like in boxing, it's so common that if like a British fighter fights in America, they want to finish the fight, because they know if it goes to a decision, no matter how the fight goes, it's going to go to the American fighter, or if you fight in Mexico, and the same. So I think it is a little bit different on that side with MMA. You don't see it as much, but I certainly understand what you're saying, though. I can see that point of view.
Look, in terms of Graham's situation on this, he's a win-winner every time, because let's just surmise that you get a guy have a run of wins, and UFC come knocking at the door. He sends them off to UFC. I have seen it before where some fighters have got there a little prematurely. They've not performed as they would have liked, I'm sure, and they get cut after just a handful of fights, or less than a couple of fights, and they get cut. The business model for Graham is that they then go back onto Cage Warriors as UFC veterans. So it's kind of a win-win. It's adding credence come what way to Cage Warriors. Now, if they are successful, well, that's great for Graham as well, because he manages them, right? And they go on to great success. But the ones that do fall a little short, they go back to Cage Warriors, and they might have a second punt at it, but they're going back onto Cage Warriors predominantly as a UFC veteran, and that adds credence and consolidation to the name of Cage Warriors. Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, but wow. I just will never agree with it personally. I think it's morally a little wrong.
I've got my my clip sorted for this week, titled "Danny Batten slams Cage Warriors owner Graham Boylan for conflict of interest." That's there's no rules. There's no rules against it. And look, he's a businessman, and in business, you just do what you got to do, and you don't care who you offend. I get you, but I know. Look, we say all the time we're always going to be open and honest and give our opinions, and we speak to various people each week, and at some point there might be a point where we have to sort of criticize someone who we know or we've spoken to or had on the show, and I'll be on the show in the future, but we have to criticize them for a fight or for something they've done or whatever it may be. We'll always give honest, and it's not personal, it's just no,
absolutely opinion, but a challenge for you, Si, get Graham on.
Oh, I've tried, mate. He won't reply to my messages. I won't stop trying, though, because then I'll play this clip back to him and ask him to reply to it. Donna says, Levi, do you have any pre-fight rituals?
No, I don't have anything. I wouldn't say ritual. I just sort of try and relax.
Cider and black. That'd be my pre-fight ritual.
Yeah, just try and chill out. Not try and take in too much of what's happening outside of the changing rooms until it's sort of your time to go. And that moment is solely just focused on you until that fight is over. So just try and shut off, keep calm. Have a little stretch, have a little walk about if you got to, and yeah, just take it as it comes. Try not to let the emotions overpower you, and just try and deal with it.
Nice, I like it. It's it's one of them, and I think it's something which you can tend to get into early in your life or your career. Things like pre-match or pre-fight rituals, and they kind of just stick. So if you haven't got any early on, I think you're probably less likely to develop one. I would have thought. Danny, do you have any?
I kind of
rituals.
I wouldn't say a ritual, but I certainly had sort of like a set routine. I'd wake up at a certain time, have a bath, and at a set time. I found I was falling into a pattern of process. Regards my fights when they was, on home soil. I certainly noticed I created a routine. When you start competing overseas, that all goes tits up because you never know what the experience is going to be with the promotion. From my experience now, particularly of like being under Bellator and UFC a lot over the recent years, things have got so well organized and stuff. It's a lot different now. But certainly back in my time, it was hard to get a routine when I was fighting out in Japan because you're getting pulled from pillar to post. It's a really stressful experience, to be honest, and not a relishable one. The experience of the fight and after the fight to get to enjoy a bit of the place that you're visiting, where you're competing, that part of it's all well and good. But you certainly don't have no luxury of keeping your routine when you're out somewhere like Tokyo. It really screws it up.
I was going to say, actually, we should get you on the My Story Series 3, mate, I think, because I think you've got lots of stories to share from like all the fights and the different places you fought around the world. I think there's some good stuff there which we haven't touched on. So maybe we'll get you on for an episode of that. But Levi,
a triple X one there. A triple X.
Absolutely. It's always a triple X for you, isn't it? As soon as you get away from this show, you're just swearing like a sailor. Levi, Donna says, do you have a nickname?
Young Money.
Young Money. I like that. That is a good fight name. Gotta say. That is a good one. What about, and Reese says, what's your ring walk music?
This time music. I had Florence and the Machine say my name. The crowd sort of seemed to like it as well. So you're going to
stick with that one, or would you change it for each fight?
Could potentially stick. We'll see next time around, but yeah, it could stick.
Nice, I like it. What about as well, Levi? You mentioned about like you haven't really got like pre-fight rituals, but you also said you kind of don't pay much attention to what's going on outside the changing room. So does that mean you wouldn't watch the fights that are on before you, like on the TV or whatever, and stuff, or even just watch them generally?
Yeah, I watch a few. I watch a few at the start of the night, depending on where I am on the card. So for this past weekend's one, I watched quite a few of the lads from my gym that were on quite a few fights before me anyway, and then around about an hour before, I'll start to switch off, start to have a stretch and start to warm up. So so up until about an hour before, I'll sort of relax. I'll walk about the arena a little bit, watch the fight, and yeah, just take it as it comes. Then just try not to get too nervous, and just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Andrew Bridges says, out of all the fighters, past and present, who would Levi like to share the cage with?
Ooh. Who would I like to share the cage with?
Danny Batten.
Well,
have to be a heavyweight these days, I reckon.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking at the current UFC bantamweight division. It is stacked. So
ridiculous.
So potentially one of those top guys or previous champions. Your Aljamain Sterling or your Cody No Love. Tj Dillashaw would be another one. Just thinking of the big names and the people that have been there and sort of done it or are doing it at the minute. That would be the dream, obviously, to get to the UFC. So to share the cage with someone that's been at the top of that table, you know, that would be a dream come true.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, isn't it? I think, but like, yeah, you're right. Like from where you are in your career now, and really just starting out. I think, like when you look at it, like fighting on the big stage and against one of those top names, maybe Tj Dillashaw, mate. I got a real issue with this guy at the moment. I really don't like Dan. I've read a few articles this week kind of painting this picture of him being like this sympathetic guy who's on the road to redemption. And like, I got a real problem with that. Like, I don't want to see, I'm not sympathetic to him whatsoever. He cheated and he got caught. And I feel like he mugged off a lot of people in the process of doing it. So I don't want to see like this story of redemption for him. In some sports, he would have been banned for life anyway. It's like, how do you feel about that? Like painting him as a bit of a sympathetic character who's, you know, come back to the fight game, and he's, do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe is it just me? Like, but I just don't feel sympathy to him at all. What's
to me, sir? Yeah. No, I'm not impressed by it whatsoever. In fact, I think if, you know, depending on obviously what it is they're getting caught for, I think there should be certain ones that obviously are going to give huge increment of performance potentially. They should be getting lifetime bans. I mean, that's what's going to become a deterrent, to be honest. Yeah. But having someone, DJ, coming through and having that amazing performance, can't take nothing away from him. It just makes people weigh up the risks. You know, I could do it, maybe get away with it for my whole career. I could do it, get caught, and still come back and make something of my career. I think this is just, you know, opening up the potential for certain personality types to take that risk. But if there's a lifetime ban, you know, potentially facing you, I think you would be less likely to be taking that risk. And then each one that does get caught doing it, you'll really truly be, you know, being used as an example. And I think there should be no tolerance whatsoever with it, personally.
I do too, because one of the big reasons why I think there should be literally zero tolerance to it is when fighters go into the cage at any level, but particularly at the top level, like they are putting their life and their health in the hands of the referee, the promotion, and things like that. Something, you know, touch wood, it doesn't, but you're fighting and there's choking and there's kicking and there's all these different strikes and submissions. Like something could go wrong and someone could get seriously hurt. And if you've got guys in there who are juiced up or taking peds, like there's that aspect of it as well. Like if they've got an advantage and I don't know, I don't like it, mate. I really, I'm not happy about it at all. I begrudgingly gave him his credit last week, but I did not like some of the articles I read this week. Really like pushing this sympathetic redemption story for him. I mean, Levi, what as a fighter, like, how do I don't know? Maybe, you know, am I off the mark? Like, how do you view it when you see guys like, so you got, you know, Tj Dillashaw, one of the top bantamweights in the world in the UFC, and then a teammate of yours, undefeated Jack Shaw, is, you know, fighting his way up that division, trying to get to the top, doing things the right way, training hard, winning his fights, as you will see, you know, every day in training. And then you see someone like Tj Dillashaw taking shortcuts, and you just don't know how long he was doing it for, do you? And it's, I don't know, like, how do you guys see it? I guess I don't feel no sympathy for him, I gotta be honest.
Yes, yeah, me too, to be honest. I gotta agree. You can't really feel any sympathetic about it. You know, he's cheating at the end of the day, and the majority of these people, it's their full-time jobs. They're doing everything the right way. I can't remember what his excuse was. It was like something, the weight cut or something like that. He was only doing it for the weight cut, and you know, the weight cut's not meant to be easy. You know, if you can't make a weight, go up a weight. You know, you shouldn't be doing things like that just to sort of gain an advantage in yourself. So yeah, I don't agree with it at all. And then obviously relating back to what you said about the permanent ban, I think that would get fighters to think twice as well about doing something. And obviously, once one person gets caught, the next person is going to think, oh, I don't want that to be me. So maybe they'll stop or just think twice about doing it in general. So yeah, you can't feel any sympathy at all, really.
Yeah, spot on. Ex-Cardiff City Middlesbrough striker Andy Campbell says, looking good, guys. Great show. Superb points. Cheats never prosper and can't get beat doing it the hard way. Rewards are immense. And I think that's what it is, isn't it? And I think ultimately, like, look at Brock Lesnar. He is a superb fighter in his day, one of the best wrestlers at heavyweight. There's been, incredible. But he came in for that massive payday when he was with the WWE, still getting paid by them. Came in for a huge payday to fight Mark Hunt, beat Mark Hunt convincingly by wrestling him and whatever. And then the fight, finished. He got busted or whatever. He failed the drugs test, but the fight was done. Yes, it was to change to a no contest, or I think it might have even been like a Mark Hunt victory or whatever, or they overturned it. Either way. But Brock Lesnar still got his money. He still came in, did his thing, went back to the WWE after a dominant position, a dominant performance in the UFC, which enabled him to then get a new contract with the WWE. So do you know what I mean? Like, there's no deterrent for him because all he did is just retire again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the thing. You got to think. All the people that DJ just fought beforehand. Who's to know how long he was on this stuff, and who's to know whether it was enough to push him to a victory when maybe it wouldn't have been if he wasn't on any of this stuff. So what happens to all those people that he's potentially beat? They would have earned less money. Their careers would have been put back a little bit. There's all this to take into account. This is why I would really be pushing so hard on something like this, because it's not just the fact that he's trying to heighten his career and get himself to be paid more because of the successes he's getting, but it's all the other people that he's trodden on to get there that have had their careers affected in the negative, particularly financial. A lot of people trying to do this to make ends meet and to make something of their lives. And, he stepped on many people's toes, I'm sure, in the process of doing what he's done when he was doing wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's spot on, mate. It's like until they change how they deal, and I'll go back to football as well, until people change, like the authorities within football, within boxing, within MMA, until you change the way you punish people for cheating, for whatever kind of cheating it is, whether it's drugs, whether it's peds and diving, racism in football, whatever it may be, until these things are punished so severely that people who do those things are fearful of the punishment, there will always be people who will try and get away with doing it. Always. And it's just the way it is. So the only way to stop it is to make the deterrent so strong that people don't do it. Yeah, it is what it is. We still got a few more questions, Levi, for you. There was one from Gaz. He said, would you fight a teammate for the UFC title? So would you fight Jack Shaw for the UFC title?
No, I wouldn't.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Not many teammates fight each other, do they? I try to think if there's been any over the years.
I think you tend to see more past teammates and stuff, but yeah, in terms of if I was offered to fight a teammate, I wouldn't take it. There's plenty of other fights there that are going to be able to, a better fight for me, rather than going to fight a teammate, whether or not you beat him or not. There's other fights there, so you haven't got a real reason to sort of want to fight a teammate. You're training together, you're preparing together. You can't exactly split up a fight, can't be either. So you may as well just have a sparring session in the gym and charge a few tickets for people to come and watch. Yeah,
it's an interesting question. I was just surprised. I just had a quick Google of like MMA teammates who fought each other. It's happened so many times that there's actually a top 10 list of it. Some of them are,
Wow.
some of them are in like jiu-jitsu and other such things. But there is a couple. Dan Henderson fought Chael Sonnen, both at Team Quest. What else we got? Nick Diaz fought Jake Shields. So there's a few. Donald Cerrone fought Clay Guida. I'm quite surprised by that. Like how many there was.
Mm-hmm.
Nunes fought Jose Aldo, both at Black House. Who's number one on the list? Let's have a look. Lyoto Machida versus Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was very surprised at how many there were. I thought that, there might be one or two along the way. I don't know how I got just put that up on the screen. Right, Levi, we're going to play the one-word game now, mate. So nice and easy. It's, I don't know, about 10 names. And you just got to say the first thing which comes to mind. So the one-word game with Levi Bachelor. Number one on the list, some would say number one anyway, is Conor McGregor.
Good talker.
Good talker. Second on the list, Paddy Pimblett.
I'm going to say Jay from In Betweeners or from Wish.
Next on the list, Jake and Logan Paul.
Social media superstars, really.
Good shout. Old money instead of young money there. Next is Dana White.
Rich.
Tyson Fury.
Quality.
Oban Elliott.
Gangster.
And finally on the list is Tyson Fury.
We've had that one, haven't we?
Yeah, you've done that one, sir.
Did I say Tyson Fury already?
Yeah, we did that one.
Okay, then Mike Tyson.
Legend.
What a legend he is. Iron Mike, indeed. Some good stuff. So just a quick look if there's any more questions. Danny, might be, or both of you probably, but Danny, you'll be able to answer this. Reese David Evans says, can I ask about banned substances? How easy stroke hard is it? Some cold medicines contain banned substances in football. For instance, Sacco got banned for diet pills. Do you speak to someone before fighters take like anything? Like how, I suppose he's asking, like how difficult is it to take something by accident that's banned?
Yeah, I have heard different things about certain medication that's got an element of things that are on the ban list. But look, you're in control of what you're putting into your body, no matter what it is, come what may. If you're putting something other than food and drink into your system and you're taking some form of medication, I think it's on your onus to check to make sure there's nothing in it that can show up on any kind of testing. That's just down to you. But I'm not really educated on that side of things. Things for me as a coach, I think coaches of old sort of like had to dabble in a little bit of everything. But now, for me, I'm pretty much solely a coach. I don't really manage. I don't really have anything to do with their fitness and conditioning training anymore. They all have specialists in their field, and I'd imagine that would fall with the people who sort out all their diet and their weight cut.
Like dietitians and stuff.
That's right. I imagine they'll be the ones that are more educated on, letting the particular fighter that's working with them know the do's and don'ts of what they're putting in their system, particularly if they do have cold or depression. There's interesting things coming up with the Olympics, isn't there, with the American gymnast. She was on medication for ADHD, and in Japan you're not allowed to take it, because she's been on this since she was a child. It's made her have all sorts of anxieties, and she couldn't perform, and she stepped down halfway through the gymnastics. Interesting things.
as someone who's got a child who takes ADHD medication and has done now for a few years, the difference in how he's able to process things, deal with things, work through things, when he's got like his medication and when he's not. So like in the morning and in the evening when it's like either worn off, or in the mornings, for instance, where he hasn't had it, for the whole night and stuff. Like that's really difficult for him. And I can imagine if you're a professional athlete having to deal with that on top of preparing for the Olympics and stuff. I got to say, I really, really felt sorry for her. Because that's out of her control almost, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you know about that one?
I didn't know it was because of ADHD medication. I knew that she had pulled out and she had.
Yeah, that's what it was to do with. But
I didn't know that, and that, to be honest, that makes me even more sympathetic to her than I was already.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the flip side of that, where do you draw the line? Because she performed incredibly over recent years, hasn't she? She's been absolutely impeccable. But can you say that ADHD medication that has a calming effect and helps you concentrate and helps you? Could it be classed as a performance?
Most ADHD medication, mate, is like it's like amphetamine based. A lot of it, like not all of them, but a lot of them are like amphetamine based medications. So of course you could see the benefits to be, to training, performing, and doing things on an amphetamine based medication. Of course you can, just even with the little knowledge that I've got over things like that, I can see the benefits to it. That's why you often see in like America at exam times, the kids are getting their hands on ADHD medication to help them study and cram for exams and stuff. So of course if you'd be naive to say that there's no benefit whatsoever. However, for someone who takes medication, day by day because of something which they have to deal with from a a health point of view, I think it's difficult to say, right, you've got to take that off you now.
That's it.
So you're not in a position to deal with things and work through things and train and perform at the same level that you can. Like there's a reason why she has that medication. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's harsh, isn't it? I suppose it's like if someone had, let me think. Say someone's got schizophrenia, for instance, and they're treated with some form of like antipsychotic medication, just whatever it may be. If you told them, and they with this medication, it manages their condition, they're fine, they're a professional athlete, they're top of their field, and then they come to the Olympics, say, and they say, well, you can't take this, so you have to stop taking that. Like, would you expect that? Would you expect someone who's got schizophrenia to stop taking their medication? It's a weird and
it's a tricky
ground,
one.
Isn't it?
Tricky one. Absolutely,
it's problematic. I felt sorry. I felt really sorry for her, especially the backlash and the abuse that she's taken on social media is just. I find it incredible. The lack of empathy that some human beings have got is astonishing, mate. I've got to say.
I think it's because it's really affected the whole team. She stepped completely back and just didn't try. I think that's part of what it was.
Yeah,
because I think the argument for many people is that she would have known that she would have to come off this medication. I guess that's hindsight.
The difference, isn't it? Is when did she find out? What did she do to kind of get around it to still take it? I mean, like, what alternatives did she look into and all that sort of stuff? I'm assuming she wouldn't know at the last minute.
Difficult thing. You have to really dive into it, quite extensively, I think, to try and come up with a conclusion of whether she was right to choose her decision or whether she was wrong. It's very, very difficult. But it's obviously affected many other ladies on the team. And I think that's part of why she got such a big backlash. But there are some people, you know what it's like with keyboard warriors, they just act on directly of what they see was in front of them and don't really look any deeper than.
I've had a few, mate, this week. I have a few people telling me what I should and shouldn't do, which is always interesting. But there we go. It is what it is. So the last thing I kind of wanted to ask you both about, or talk to you both about, is there was this mad, I don't know if you would have seen this video clip. I was thinking about putting it on the screen, but I don't want to because it might get pulled down for copyright. So it's from Poland. And there was this MMA fight between a fighter called the fighter's identified. His name is Kung Fu Panda, apparently. He took on 3 opponents, so it was effectively 3-on-1 in an MMA cage. It's astounding. I don't know if either of you have seen it. Danny, if you haven't, I'll send it to you later, mate. But it's just incredible to me, because it's in a proper cage. There's fans there. It looks like a proper professional setup. It's just in Poland, and it's 3 against 1, and it's just incredible. The 3 of them just got him to the floor and just beat him, just pummeled him with hammer fists. The
only thing I've had any dealings with that is that one of the students and coaches alongside myself, he teaches a lot of the Nogi and BJJ. Real tall lad, 6'5", 6'6", really, really good grappler. And he's a Polish guy that goes out to Poland and fights on these. So I think there's like 10 of them on a team against another 10 people when they have a full MMA.
Like a team match sort of thing. Yeah, that looks. I've seen a couple of them. They look
madness.
Weird, mate.
Well, he does that. It's absolute madness.
I'm going to flick this up on the screen for you both to have a quick look at now. Right, it's not going to be up for long because it is what it is. But I got to keep talking over it as well. Ready? So this is. I apologize to the audio viewers in advance, but it's still not going to be for long. So it should come up now. So there you go. What's he supposed to do in that situation? I guess, and that is literally 10 seconds into the fight. It is just astounding. So we just take it back there. This is the start of the fight, and then boom, he's gone, he's down, and that's it. Game over. It's incredible to watch, isn't it? Is
it like heavyweight versus 3 bantamweights or something?
Oh, I don't know. Mate, it is just frightening. It goes as you would expect. They just drag him to the floor and beat him. They're professional fighters.
The guys.
Yeah. I was just having a look then to see if there was any sort of doesn't seem to be a great deal of information on him. Other than in the blue corner, it was Kung Fu Panda, and the guy comes out in it looks like he's got jeans on, but I don't think he has. He comes out with 2 lovely ladies, and for his little entrance, and the ref again looks professional. So it's weird. It's a very, very strange situation, but
it's not going to do MMA any favors putting things like that.
No, but then. If it was on, Dan, you'd watch it, wouldn't you? Let's be honest.
Out of curiosity, yeah, but I don't think it'd be, pull it in, hardcore viewers, No,
of course not. It'd be a one-off kind of
as a freak show type thing. But
right. Yeah. Let's have a look at a talk about some of the last night's fights. Reese has got a question, Levi. What's your diet like during the build-up to a fight?
It's quite it is quite strict. Obviously, I'm still on the same day weigh-ins at the moment as well, so try and stay as far away from water cutting as I can. To fight week, you do get a little bit quite hungry. Trying to stay away from all the carbs and things like that. So yeah, it can get quite difficult, but I stay dedicated to it and it works, so can't complain.
Yeah, I suppose I'm guessing it makes it a little bit not easier, but a little bit more palatable that you're doing it for a reason, and it's focused between making that weight and stuff. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I'm sure it is brutal at times.
Exactly.
So we had an incredible night of fights. We'll just talk Bellator first and foremost. We had a Bellator featherweight championship match. You had AJ Mckee, who was ranked number 1, facing Patricio Pitbull, who has been he's the champion. It didn't last very long, Danny. But AJ Mckee, mate, couldn't have been much more impressive, could he?
Yeah. I've known him for quite a while because of doing the corner for Linton quite extensively.
Yeah.
I've got to know him and his dad, who's his main coach. His dad's a pretty decent wrestler. And
so why hasn't he been on the show? Is all I'll say to you.
I'm saying nothing. I knew this kid was going to be something special for a long time, and I like the way that they've slowly progressed him. They're not pushing him up too quick. They really protected who he's up against at any one time. They've really managed his career really, really well. So I knew he was going to be something special, and he's really big at the weight. Pitbull ain't big at the weight. You could see that in the physicality difference. So much height advantage in McKee's favour. Really huge. And he's so sharp and fast. He's really, really quick at what he does. And yeah, I mean, my money was on McKee all day long, even though Pitbull has shown to be, a decent opponent for anyone at any level. I knew he was up against McKee. And yeah, he got rocked really, really early. And when that guillotine went in from standing, he wasn't doing the right thing. He did put his arm to pull down on the wrists, so I don't think he had his faculties about him when he was even trying to defend that standing guillotine choke. Yeah, McKee's the man. I'd love to see McKee go to UFC. I really would. I don't know how loyal he is to Bellator. I know he's been under them for quite a few years, but I'd love to see someone like him come over to UFC because I think he'll be the real deal even in UFC. I think he'll make some noise there.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing now, because he's champion. He's unlikely to be going anywhere soon. But I would like to see someone like him really fight some big names. But Bellator, there's some people there you can have a little a tear up with. I thought he was exceptional. His performance, Levi. What were you surprised that he dispatched Pitbull so quickly and easily?
Yeah,
he seemed to be easily.
Yeah, he looked really good. To be fair to him. Landed that nice head kick first, rocked him, followed up with it with a flurry of punches. I think he landed the uppercut that dropped him, and then sort of went for the walk-off knockout. Obviously, the fight wasn't stopped, so jumped on the guillotine. But I think Pitbull's head was all over the shop after that head kick. He didn't really know where he was.
Set up, wasn't it?
Yeah, he didn't really know where he was. I think he was sort of complaining about the stoppage after it as well. So I think it was more of a TKO than the guillotine just finish him off. Yeah.
Indeed. I missed this question earlier. I should ask. Yeah, I should put it to you, Levi. Joe Coles wants to know, Levi, when are you going to fight Joe Coles? So there we go.
He doesn't want
that. There's another question there. I didn't see that either. William Campbell says, Levi, do you agree that GSP is the GOAT?
I do not.
Who's the GOAT in your opinion then? Because Danny thinks GSP, I know.
Honestly, I think Khabib is up there as the greatest of all time. I really don't see anybody that's going to be able to stop him, or anybody that's already come and gone that would be able to stop him, to be honest, either. I just think he's world class. Every time you look at him, he just makes people look silly. So for me, Khabib is the greatest.
Yeah, and do you know what? That takes us beautifully into the next fight I wanted to talk about for the Bellator card, and that was off Khabib's cousin, I think it is, Usman, defeated Manny Muro via TKO strikes in the first round. He's been impressive since he went to Bellator. Does not look in danger of really losing a fight at this point. But Levi, what did you make of Usman's performance, mate?
Yeah, I think he looked good. Obviously, his striking was looking pretty good. I think he hit the knockdown, and then took back from the scramble, if I can remember correctly. It was a little bit back and forth at the start, but obviously it didn't last very long. Usman came out on top, and he's looking good. It'd be nice to see him got the ranks a little bit more now, and start fighting the guys more towards the top of the division.
Yeah, I think so. I think he needs a bit more. He's going to face some more challenging guys now. He's had a couple of fights in Bellator. It's going to be interesting who they pit him against next. Did you see this one, Dan?
I did. Yeah.
Usman.
And it looked really, really convincing. And Usman still looks like he can tidy a few things up. There was a situation where he was on the ground and Moreau spanning his guard and got on top briefly and so on and so forth. So there's still some tidying up to be doing, before he gets to the top guys. But yeah, he's going to have to progress up naturally. He keeps getting the wins. So yeah.
There we go, mate. It's going to be interesting. But I would advise anyone, if you're an MMA fan or you want to have a look at some good fights, the Bellator card, the prelims are on YouTube to watch, but the Bellator card's on BBC iPlayer. It's Bellator, what was it?
263. Did anyone watch the Primus versus Nurmagomedov fight?
Go on, you go, mate.
The grappling, the omoplatas, he kept using rubber guard, didn't he?
Oh, with Islam.
You could really truly argue that Primus perhaps should have got the nod. I know it's a split decision, and it was really how the judges were going to see it. Because Nurmagomedov was really not in control, even though he was on top for much of the transitions on the ground. He was defending time and time again, and defending very, very well. But defense is defense, and you're not scoring as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, I think there was a good argument for Primus to got the victory off his back there with that one.
Mate.
I agree.
I thought the Bellator main card was superb. It's on the BBC iPlayer, and I know there's a few people who watch the show who, are kind of just getting into MMA and kind of just getting into it because they've watched some of our other shows and they've kind of come across to support us, which I always, I appreciate that. But it's good. I would advise them go and watch that on the BBC iPlayer because it's a great, great card. And then, of course, we had UFC. Vegas or Fight Night, whatever they're calling them these days. Some real good fights on this, Danny, as well. We'll go fight by fight, mate. We'll start at the beginning. We had Jason Witt versus Brian Barbarena with a majority decision victory going to Jason Witt. How did you see this one going, mate?
Jason Witt, he looked good. His wrestling was really well timed. Really, taking that Brian off his feet, really, really clean. There was a difference in physicality and wrestling performance there. We know Barbarena likes his striking and was struggling to get it off. There were times when Jason Witt even delivered, pretty good strikes individually, not putting together, chaining them together to combinations, but it was enough to keep Barbarena at bay. But the takedowns really impressed me. But really, I think the highlight of this was that end part of the last round, where Barbarena needed the knockout to win, and he very nearly got it. Not with any one particular hit, but Jason Witt looked out on his feet, really looked tired, but he kept digging deep and he kept shooting on my Barbarena, kept smothering any potentiality for Barbarena to get that TKO or the knockout. But my goodness, it was. It started to look like two kids scrapping on a field towards the latter part. They was both so exhausted, but fair play to them. They both left every bit of themselves in there at the end of the fight. But Jason Witt performed really, really good. I think Jason Witt's going to suffer a little bit. I don't think he looks natural when he's striking. I think when he comes up against someone that's got good enough wrestling to not allow him to steer it to the ground as and when the pressure gets too much, I think he's going to start to look uncomfortable on the feet. But hopefully the striking is a work in progress for him. 34 years old now as well. But I think there's still work to be done regards him trying to step up and still getting the wins, to be honest.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Levi, anything to add on Jason Witt, mate?
Yeah, it was a fantastic fight to watch, to be honest. Yeah, I'd fight of the night if I'm correct. And that last bit of the last round, it was fireworks. It was and he got a bit close. Witt got a bit close when he had the gum shield knocked out, and he picked it up, didn't he? Yeah, he picked it up at the rest stop on it. He was he was cutting it a bit fine,
was he?
but nah, he was cutting it a bit fine. But yeah, overall it was a good fight.
Spot on, mate. And then we had I'm going to butcher this name. Malzic Bagahadasarian defeated Colin Anglin via TKO head kick and then strikes about a minute and 50 into the second round. Levi, you can go first on this one, mate, if you want. What did you make of Malzic's performance?
Yeah, again, I think he looked fantastic in the strike department. He came out swinging straight away, hard shots, throwing the head kicks, mixing it up as well to the legs and the strikes. So you could see that, it probably wasn't going to go the distance. And they were eating some heavy shots as well, back and forth between both of them. And then obviously towards the end of the first round, they were starting to take some heavy shots, and then obviously going into the second round, then you could see as they were getting a little bit fatigued maybe, but the shots were still coming hard, and eventually it caught up to them. And the commentators were talking about obviously how which one was the other one?
Anglin.
Yeah, he was keeping his hand low on the for the left kick. His hand was low.
That's right. Yeah.
And the commentators kept saying that over and over, and obviously it caught up to him in the end and landed that head kick.
Yeah, he's a brutal kick as well, which caught him right in the side of the head. It's impressive, Dan. Anything to add on that, mate?
Yeah, look, if Anglin wanted to have any successes, I think he just shouldn't have been trading on the feet as much as he was. I think he should have been trying to shoot in and take something out of the arms and legs of Malzic, particularly in that first round, and just get past that danger zone. And that danger zone with Malzic is really that first round and, say the first half of the second round. That's when he's at his most dangerous, because he did slow up towards the latter part of that first round. I think really as a strategy, I think Anglin should have been trying to tire out his muscles and shoot in a whole lot more than he did. But he chose to trade on the feet, and it cost him the fight at the end of the day. But Malzic, when he delivers strikes, boy, does he do it with speed and velocity. Still bits to learn on the job, I feel. He's not ready for any big increment as a step up. I like to see him still have carefully picked fights, and I think we've got someone that could possibly be making a running and start making real noises in the higher parts of in the higher ranks. But yeah, good to watch though. Good to watch.
Yeah, he needs to keep progressing. His head kicks are reminiscent of Levi Bachelor, by the way. Brutal. They were impressive stuff though, mate. I liked it. Next up was Jared Gooden defeated German Nicholas Stoltz via TKO and strikes to finish. I was looking forward to seeing Stoltz fight. I think it was his last fight I watched, and I really enjoyed watching him fight. I find him quite an interesting fighter to watch, but he never quite got going in this one, Danny, did he?
No, they were both striking for striking. They were both going in each other at the same time. And one of them was going to end up pulling the short straw, and Stoltz was the one that pulled up the short straw this time. That Jared Gooden, he's a powerful dude. Powerful dude.
Big shoulders on him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a real menacing guy. And again, I think the strategy should have been to try and wear out those big muscles. Even if you're not an amazing, accomplished wrestler, just shooting and pushing up against the cage, this can take a little zap out of a powerful striker's game or a sharp striker's game. They've got to think about their strategy, but I think people try to chase that fight bonus, the fight of the night and the knockout of the night. I think they chase that because for many of these fighters, that's life-changing money. And I think sometimes they chase it so hard, it can affect the results of the fight. I just say build a foundation with your wins and do it so that when you finish your 3 or 4 fight contract, as they typically are, that your next contract is going to be life-changing money because that's your actual wage. But trying to chase these 50 grand bonuses, I would say against it, to be honest. I mean, if it happens, it happens. But you certainly shouldn't be fighting out of your strategical needs to get the win just to make an emphatic fight.
Yeah.
Not when you're building your career anyway. Once you've made your money and what have you, okay, do what the hell you want, I guess. But these guys should really be trying to build up a foundation to consolidate their lives financially, so they can, they're better their lives. But no, I think they're trying to chase too hard. One of them was going to go down, and one of them did.
That right hand, which
like
Jared Gooden caught him with a right hand flush right in the nose, and when he hit the deck, he did not know where he was. And I think he was lucky that when Jared Gooden then pounced on him and hit him on the floor, his first shot sort of hit him by there, he missed it.
Sure.
And then the hammer fist, because he was his head was all over the shop, his hammer fist completely missed, so he didn't take as much damage from the sort of the mount that he would have.
Yeah,
if he had been a bit more still.
Yeah, hats off to the referee, and I think the referee.
Yeah, Herb Dean was in
that
real
night
quick, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think the referee and across the board was pretty spot on. It really was. We keep on talking about the refs when they make a mistake, but I think we should do hats off when they perform their jobs really, really well, which they should do. But they're just humans; they make no mistakes. But the refereeing was absolutely on point, I felt.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Couldn't agree more.
Agree.
Next up was the ladies. Levi with Cheyenne Baez defeating Gloria de Paula via TKO strikes. Only a minute of this one. What did you make of the performances?
Yeah, I thought this one was quite a nasty one. She had obviously hit that. She had obviously hit the deck. She had gone to get back up with some sort of technical stand-up, but obviously brought her arm back, leaned her head over a bit too far, and then obviously that kick came up. Once again, she thought she had that walk-off knockout, so and in the air turned around, but the ref hadn't stopped it, straight to mount, ground and pound and finish it. But yeah, she looked really good, to be fair to her.
Yeah, it was a weird. It was weird actually, because she thought she had the win, didn't she? When she went to walk off, she thought it was done. But I mean, it wasn't far off being done. Let's be honest. But if you're a coach, Danny, and you're looking at your fighter kind of hit a big strike and turn and walk away because they think they've got the win and the win's not secured, are you frustrated? Or are you just
they shouldn't be doing that.
No, are you happy that your fighter's just won?
You carry on till the ref intervenes. Simple as that. Yeah, absolutely. You just keep going. Nothing ends until that referee steps in.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess if you go for that kind of walk off KO and it's not what you think it is, you could quite easily then turn around into something big, couldn't you, from your opponent? Especially if they've been rocked and they're kind of thinking, right, I've got to just hit something out of the blue, and often that's the most dangerous point, isn't it? Is when someone's been hit by a big shot, they throw, something which they maybe wouldn't have thrown normally.
Could you imagine how this had gone if
she turned around into a spinning back elbow or something?
Well, she gets knocked down. Paulo, recovers and actually gets buyers down and starts stealing the round off her and stuff. Then the coaches, you watch how they'd be pissed then. But it all pulled off well for her. She managed to get that mount position, rain down those punches and elbows. But yeah, that's maybe inexperience that showed through a little bit there. But yeah, you should never stop until the ref steps in. I can't say more than that, really.
Right, Levi, let's talk about this main event between Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland. I thought Uriah Hall was dominated throughout the fight. I gotta be honest. But how did you see it going?
Yeah, 100%. Strickland just looked really good. Completely outclassed him throughout the whole fight, to be honest. You could see that at the end of every round as well. Obviously, once they were going back to the corners, Strickland was up on his feet, pacing about, ready to get back into it. Hall, on the other hand, he sort of sat down, didn't really know where to put himself.
Yeah, swimming.
Yeah, but then you see him come back out and he looks fresh, and you can never count him out. He's still got that power behind him, and you can't sleep on him. But yeah, he was getting dominated the entire fight.
Yeah, Uriah Hall, he's 37 now. and Strickland's 30. Danny, how much does those 7 years make a difference at that level of Uriah Hall's career, where, 37, he's only like a couple of years younger than me, for instance, like fighting a younger, fitter, sharper fighter.
Yeah.
How much of a struggle, not a struggle, but how much does his age come into his performance last night for you?
It only is going to come into play depending on what stylistic fight that's going to happen that night. And when you're fighting someone like Strickland, he's a grinder. He's not always the nicest to watch technically, but he grinds forward and he pushes the pace on you. And you're both, having to defend with anxiety. You're having to, attack as a form of defense primarily as well when you want to go forward on him, because he predominantly comes forward. So, yes, that would have been making Uriah Hall feel he's 37 years. But Uriah Hall is still an athlete, no matter what. And, for many of the fighters, stylistically, he would have matched up better with. But Strickland, he goes off from the start of the gun. He kind of just pours onto you with this constant pace. I do wonder how long Strickland's going to go on before he gets caught out with that forward-coming approach, because he does have his head a little bit high. He is a little bit tall when he comes forward. But for many, he's going to be a tricky customer to overcome. He is a little bit of a puzzle for people, but there are going to be people out there that are going to, see through this style and start putting questions upon him, for which he's going to have to find answers to. Yes, I like what I'm seeing, but I don't think I'm seeing the complete Strickland yet, ready to make any noises at the top of the tree. I just think that walking forward style needs a little bit more intelligence with it, and that just needs a little bit more developing. I just can't see him doing that against the top people in that division. It worries me a little bit with him, but nevertheless, I like watching him fight. Every time he fights, there's a lot of action. He leaves it all in there, and also in the interviews, he's always the same. He's really, really consistent. He just loves fighting, and he sees the fight game and this opportunity to have this experience as something that's stopped his life steering down another path. So that part of me makes me, soften to him. It's funny because when he talks in the interview in such a way, and the way he fights, it's really quite surprising, because he's just such a nice, down-to-earth guy. He just walks forward fearlessly. Really, really impressive. Just thing I want to add in as well, there was commentators were saying that Uriah Hall should have been attacking Strickland's legs more. And that's the thing, when you approach forward all the time and you're tall, your legs are susceptible to being kicked. But I think they overlooked the fact that Strickland actually shin blocked and really cut the kick on Uriah Hall. And I think that's why Uriah Hall stopped kicking, because he was getting shin checked. So yes, I think Uriah Hall's way to try and turn this around was trying to add some kicks into the equation instead of it being a boxing match, which I think suited Strickland. But the fact that Strickland started to adapt and change, because he was receiving leg kicks, he started to shin block them. And then it was no longer a viable route for Hall. I think Hall possibly hurt his leg on one of those leg kicks and decided not to throw any more of them, which kind of forced him into this boxing match that he was never going to win, because Strickland's just such a grinder.
Mate, I love listening to you speak about these fights, mate. I love the analysis and the detail of it. It's just superb. Gaz says, great main event. Is Uriah Hall done? Like, I didn't think his performance was so bad. With Anderson Silva, those last few fights were kind of painful to watch, weren't they? And it was like, oh, mate, please let's just give it up, because you're not what you once were. Whereas I didn't get that opinion. I didn't get that feeling from Uriah Hall, even though Strickland won the fight. I thought Uriah Hall still showed that he had, some skills and some power. I don't know. I'll ask you two the pros, as it were, in terms of MMA and your knowledge. I'll pass that question to you. Danny and Levi. Levi, you go first, mate. Do you think Uriah Hall is kind of done at the top level?
Potentially have one or two more. He's not coming off too many losses. Obviously, he was on a bit of a winning streak, I'm pretty sure. So he may come back for another 1 or 2, hope for a little payday. But 37 years of age, you can't go on for too much longer, I don't think. It is a young man's sport. You have people like Strickland coming up through the ranks, and you just can't compete as you get older. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to be able to still be doing it at the age of 37, but hopefully all will be said and done by long before then. But
I get
the
other thing as well is from UFC's point of view as well is like I don't think I'd be in like any rush to to drop him or anything like that, because he's quite a big name for any up and coming fighters to fight against, didn't he, Dan? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you got like an up and coming fighter in that weight, giving him Uriah Hall on the way up as they need that kind of more difficult opponent. I think he's a great name, great fighter. Like, he showed enough in that fight. Yes, he looked a bit reluctant and a bit sluggish at certain points in between rounds. He didn't look that up for it, but he still showed enough to me that he's got something about him. And like I said, for young fighters coming up, he's almost like the perfect gatekeeper, I suppose, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you ask the question, is he done? Is he done regards becoming a threat for the title? I'd say yes. I don't think you're going to see Uriah Hall break into the top 5 anymore. I think he's top 15, maybe top 10 still, possibly, but he is on the retraction. He's at the latter end of his career, but he's still relevant if he wants to be relevant, accepting the position that he's in, and that position is that it can still be a really interesting feature fight. He can still get some good paydays. There's still some good performances there within him. I didn't see anything super negative about his performance against Strickland. I think Strickland was just a better, younger fighter, I think, and that style just doesn't suit Hall. Hall needs to have a slow start, and he comes on strong, comes good in the second and third rounds, but so, it's not done in that sense. There's still a place for him. It's all down to whether he's going to be acceptance of that place. And, I think a gatekeeper at this stage is a little too premature to say that he's that as such, because I think he can still beat people, sort of around that 8 to 15 rank. I think he could still be a threat, but certainly I don't think he's going to be effective against the guys now in the top sort of 7 onwards. I think he would struggle to get wins, and partly due to his age and partly just to do with the pool of talent is just more vast now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, mate, isn't it? It's like
he's made a great
they've got in that. All those divisions is just ludicrous.
Sure, he's made a good name for himself at the end of the day, and that name still lives on. I'd like to still see him fight around for another couple of years, but again, it's all down to whether he is happy in the position that he's in. Some people are only in it because they want to be the world champion, and anything less than is not acceptable. And I think when they realise that dream's gone, they step aside very quickly. Other people just can't let it go. I hope he don't go on so long as someone like Anderson Silva that he has previously beat, but I do think he's still got a relevancy in that division in some sorts, and he can bring more financial success to his life, I'm sure, with a few interesting feature fights. There's certainly some fights that I'd still like to see him come up against, and I think I'll be tuning in to watch him with interest. I like watching him fight.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, mate. Very interesting stuff. A massive card next week, UFC 265. Just do some predictions quickly for the main card. So the main event is Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gane for an interim heavyweight title bout. These interim titles, ridiculous.
They're a bit annoying.
I don't understand why they're doing an interim heavyweight title fight, because Ngannou's heavyweight champion. Like, why are they doing an interim title fight? I don't understand.
I don't get it.
Stupid. Levi, who's going to win that? Derek Lewis or Gane?
I think Derek Lewis takes it.
I think he's going to knock him out. I'll be honest.
Yeah, he's just so unpredictable.
He is.
It's so hard. Yeah, I mean, we've seen if Derek lands, he's putting you out. As simple as that.
Gagne's good though.
He is good.
Quite a big difference in the odds, but I think Gane should not be underrated.
No, not at all. But Yeah, I mean, I want Derek Lewis to win. I really like this guy. I mean, he's not the real cream of the crop in terms of his skill and visual, but I just love the guy to bits, and I like it that he throws down to knock you out. I like it. Yeah, he finds a way to get it done, and I don't know. I'm just going to go with Lewis, man. I like
Derek Lewis, ranked number 2 heavyweight in the world, mate. Number 2.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Kanye's number 3. Maybe one day we'll see John Jones fight in the heavyweight division at some point. Bantamweight bout then. Jose Aldo, ranked number 5 versus number 9 ranked Pedro Munhoz. I think this is a real interesting fight. Danny, who you got? Aldo or Munhoz?
Aldo has really looked good. Now he's come down away. I've got to say, he has started to look good lately. But, is he fading to a point? I don't know. I'm going to stick with Aldo on this one.
Interesting.
But not a foregone conclusion at all. But I'm going to go Aldo.
I'm going to go with Pedro Munhoz. I'm a big fan of Pedro.
It's very good.
Very, very good. What about you, Levi? Who you got in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go Munhoz, yeah.
Good shout. That's the right answer. It's the right answer. Next up, welterweight bout between Michael Chiesa and Vincent Luque. That's an interesting fight, and as well. Ranked 5 versus 6. Similar record, similar height. Although Michael Chiesa's got a couple of inches. Similar reach, exactly the same reach. God, it's going to be a very interesting fight because they are matched pretty well. I can't remember who went first last time. I think it was Danny. Levi, who you got for this one?
I think I'm going to go Luque for this one.
Yeah.
Shout. Yeah.
I agree with that, Luque.
I'm going to do so. I'll go against the grain, as is the case, and I'll go with Chiesa. I like Chiesa as a person as well. He seems like a top guy. So we'll go with him. Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill. 10 versus 12. Women's strawweight. I'm a big fan of Tisha Torres and Angela Hill. Really looking forward to it. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go with Angela Hill on this one. Danny Batten, who you got?
I'm going to go against you with this one.
Tisha Torres for you, is it? And Levi.
Yeah, I'll go Torres as well.
As me, as usual, I stand alone. Bantamweight bout as well. Then we got Song Yadong versus Casey Kenney. So that's a tough one to call, I think, as well. But I'll leave Levi's first on that one, so you get the pleasure of picking first.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty good fight, to be honest.
It's going to be a banger.
I'm gonna go Song Yadong for that one. I think he's looking pretty good. Casey Kenney, he had a close fight with obviously Nathaniel Wood as well, but yeah, I think Yadong takes it. Again,
they are so closely matched. Like, even their records are really like Casey Kenney 16-3-1, and Song is like 16-5-1. Like, they're so closely matched in everything: height, weight, reach. I'm gonna go with Song Yadong, but only marginally. Danny, who you got, mate?
I'm going to go Casey Kenney. I think his work rate's going to be too much. I think he's got really good wrestling. He's got really good work rate, and I just think he's going to keep pinching the rounds off him.
Indeed, mate. So tonight there's Cage Warriors show on in America. Cage Warriors. So that's going to be interesting. We've run out of time, but we will talk about it next week anyway, and we'll watch the fights and we'll have a little chat about that. And we'll be back again with another top guest. Got guests booked in for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, which is really cool. And I've literally, whilst we've been doing the show, I've just booked another one because multitasking. So yeah, I'm very happy to say I've booked another guest. But our guest this evening was Levi Bachelor. Levi, it's been a pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed chatting to you. And
thank you very much for having me on.
Just very quickly, mate, I'm going to throw a couple of questions which people asked while we were just talking about the fights. And Rob Boyle asked, what's your favourite offensive move to use?
Triangle choke.
Nice. And then Reese David Evans asked 2 questions. He said, in your opinion, what is the most exciting rivalry in MMA? Danny, you go first on that one, mate.
Most exciting rivalry.
It's got to be Khabib and McGregor, and it like their rivalry was like just ridiculous for that year or 18 months.
I loved it when the banter was going back and forth with him and Jesse Aldo, because Jesse Aldo was still he seemed untouchable. Yeah, and so I think that rivalry, the way that built up, I remember really getting excited about it myself. Like, who the hell's going to? They're both strikers, but very different formatted strikers. It was going to be super interesting. I love that sort of. Although there wasn't a rivalry where they fought each other time and time again.
Just the build up to it. Do you know what? I just loved it. Do you know what I would say? The most exciting rivalry. I'd say the most exciting period for me in MMA was the rise of Conor McGregor from his last Cage Warriors fight to that Eddie Alvarez fight when he won the second belt. Right, yeah. Like that period, just watching him tear through various people and the mind games and the way, like Jose Aldo, that the build up to that fight, Conor McGregor beat him in the build up. Like he just mentally destroyed him to the point where, Jose Aldo just went running in because he couldn't wait to get his hands on him. And he got knocked out. But what do you think, Levi? What's the most exciting rivalry in MMA for you?
Yeah, you touched upon it with the obviously Khabib Conor, but I think it's a bit ironic that McGregor's involved in all of them. So he's just class to watch. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, man. That's a good
show. And McGregor and Nate as well. That's been a good rivalry.
And I think that's not over as well.
I would like to see them two fight again. I think that's
I think they will. I think
a good to watch bout.
I think McGregor will do Poirier. I think he'll do Diaz, and then I think he'll switch to just doing the odd super fight, whether it's boxing or MMA. Danny, Reese wants to also know, why are you not on the milk tonight?
I felt first in a different way, and a lot of people might not know, but I had cancer in my mouth, like my tongue, so a lot of my tongue removed. So what I noticed is on one side I either get a build up with fluid or I get really dry, and I had to almost teach myself to re-talk again. And so when I'm talking and I begin to get dry, I find that milk works the best. But I was just particularly because of the warmer weather and stuff, I just fancied a different drink. I just did it different this time. But yeah, good question. But yeah, that's why I constantly drink throughout, because I get dry and I start to really struggle with my words. And you might not pick up on it too much, but it's not so easy for me. I start sounding drunk.
What a champ indeed, mate. Top stuff. So next week we'll be live again on Sunday, and we will be joined by Aaron Abbey, who has got a fascinating story, is in the process of a phenomenal career, fought on the most recent Cage Warriors card, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But he's how can I put it? He's just got a really interesting story, and he's an absolute phenomenal fighter. And I'm really looking forward to talking to him and hearing his story. And his journey, mate, Dan, from the amateur scene to he's had a lot of health problems, to then signing with Cage Warriors, and he's in their flyweight division, and he didn't have the dream start that I think everyone was hoping for, but he's going to be really interesting to talk. He's battled cancer most recently, but he's also got cystic fibrosis, which he's had since birth, but he's still fighting at top level. So I'm really looking forward to hearing his story and just kind of getting to know him, throw some questions at him. But so we'll be back next week with Aaron. I'll be back tomorrow with the Andy Campbell Football Show. Tomorrow we have ex-England and Leeds and Villa and Torino defender Tony DeRigo is joining us, which I'm really looking forward to. We'll be live 7:30 Monday as usual. And me, Danny, and Aaron will be live next Sunday at 8 o'clock. Please do join us. And also, you can download the audio versions as usual at all the usual places, Spotify, Stitcher. Easiest way is to go to the website, which is linked in the description at the Sports Social page, or below in the description. But Levi, nice one, mate. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Your words. It's been good crack, mate. Enjoyed it greatly. Danny, nice one. Thanks for tuning up.
I enjoyed it. It's been a good one.
Good,
been a good weekend. Absolutely.
I'm going to get some Chinese food. See you all tomorrow. Guten Tag.